Get your homeless ass out of my showroom before I call the police." Those words cracked through the marble and gold lobby like ice, shattering across a pond. In that instant, every head in that luxury real estate office on the Upper East Side jerked up, some out of curiosity, others with a look I knew all too well. I could feel the air thicken, the stairs prickling at the back of my neck. It was one of those moments you don't ever forget, when you realize the people who hold the keys to opportunity have already decided you don't belong, no matter how quietly you walk in, no matter what you're actually there for. I guess I should start with the obvious. My name's Malcolm Ellis, 43, skin the color of strong coffee, wearing the kind of khakis and navy polo that most people in this city wouldn't give a second glance. But here, under these chandeliers, surrounded by million-dollar listings and white-gloved service, I stood out, not for what I wore, but for who I was, and more importantly, for who they assumed I wasn't. The woman behind the marble desk, Ashley, blonde, maybe late 20s, tapping away on her phone like I was a stain she could text away, didn't even bother to look up at first. When she did, her eyes skated over me like I was just another interruption in a day of perfect clients and perfect commissions. "Can I help you?" she said, with the kind of sharpness that's meant to slice, not serve. I tried to keep my voice calm, professional. "Yes, I'd like to speak to someone about your Park Avenue listings." She laughed, a sound that was all teeth. "Everything here starts at $2 million. Sir, maybe you'd be more comfortable looking somewhere else." Her perfectly manicured hand slid a rumpled flyer for low-income housing across the desk, letting it flutter to the ground at my feet. I bent down, picked up the flyer. My hand shook just a little, anger or humiliation. Hard to say which, but I made myself stand tall. "I'm interested in commercial properties, actually, multi-unit buildings. I saw you had a few on the website." Ashley's mouth twisted into something like a smirk. She turned to the brunette sorting files beside her. "Maria, get a load of this. Another one who thinks he can afford Park Avenue." Maria gave me a sideways look, a soft snort, and went right back to her work. That's when the performance began. Ashley asked for my name, spelled it out on the visitor log with exaggerated care, and demanded to know my legitimate business purpose. She pronounced every syllable like she was teaching a dog a new trick. When I didn't rise to the bait, she reached for her phone, snapped a photo without asking, and started typing away furiously. I could see the other staff peeking at their screens, some trying to stifle laughs, others just coldly recording every move. My photo, I later learned, was already circulating in their Slack channel with a label, "Suspicious individual in showroom. Security notified." People were starting to stare. There was an older white woman in a Chanel suit, sipping champagne in a private viewing room. A young intern, Sarah, was streaming her coffee run for social media, her phone accidentally catching every bit of this circus. And in the corner, a security guard hovered, one hand on his radio, the other eyeing me like he wasn't sure which side he was supposed to be on. I swallowed, tried to remember why I was here. "Look, I have an appointment. I just want to speak to whoever manages your commercial portfolio." Ashley called over her shoulder for a manager, and out came Tom, a middle-aged man with graying hair and a suit that screamed, "I'm in charge." He looked me up and down, slow and deliberate, then held out his hand. "Identification and proof of appointment, please." I handed over my driver's license. Tom stared at it a little too long, squinting at the address, checking the photo like he was hunting for evidence of fraud. "You rent in this building?" he asked, his voice thick with doubt. I own it, I replied, my tone clipped. Ashley let out a snorting laugh. Right, and I own the Empire State Building. Every response was a test. Every word a reminder that I was being sized up, not served. Even when I flashed a glimpse of my Hermes wallet or mentioned my interest in investments, it didn't matter. To them, I was always the outsider. Tom handed my license back, reluctant, like it was contaminated, and told me their commercial properties start at $50 million and require documented assets. Around us, I noticed some of the clients watching with something like discomfort. Maybe they recognized the code. Maybe they didn't. I felt a familiar heat in my chest, the kind that makes you want to shout or throw something. But all I did was breathe. I'd been here before, in 100 different ways, and anger was never the answer. Things got worse. Tom gestured toward the glass doors at the back. Perhaps you'd be more comfortable at one of our satellite offices. They handle smaller transactions. I refused to budge. I'd like to speak with someone in charge. He puffed up, tried to look bigger than he was. I'm in charge of client relations, but unless you have bank statements, tax returns, or proof of funds, there's nothing more we can do. I could feel my patience running out. I looked around. Most of the staff were pretending not to notice, but I caught Maria recording on her phone, Ashley furiously typing, Tom getting more and more aggressive. I was being outnumbered and outmaneuvered, boxed in by rules designed to keep people like me out. Still, I kept my voice measured. Before we involve law enforcement, maybe you could reference your company's customer treatment protocols, Section 4.7. That got their attention. Tom hesitated, his confidence faltering for just a moment. How do you know about our handbook? I make it my business to know these things, I replied. Suddenly, Janet appeared, a senior agent in a razor-sharp suit, heels clicking like gunshots on marble. She stepped between me and the executive elevators, her posture all power and warning. Commercial properties require substantial financial backing. Mr. Ellis, our clients are Fortune 500 or international groups. Frankly, you don't fit our typical client demographic. That hit like a punch to the gut. It was the quiet part said out loud. Even the older woman in the viewing room gasped. I could feel the shame crawling up the back of my neck. Anger, too. But also something smaller and meaner. Doubt. Ashley picked up the desk phone. Security, we have a situation on the main floor. Possible trespassing. She stared right at me as she spoke, making sure every single person heard. There was no reasoning left. No explanations. No polite requests. Every response was a wall. My heart thudded hard in my chest, and for a split second, I wondered if I should just leave, if maybe I really didn't belong here, if I was just making trouble. Maybe I should walk away and save myself the humiliation. But I stood my ground. I owed that much to myself, and honestly, to everyone who'd ever been told they weren't good enough. A new player stepped into the scene, the security guard, Marcus. A black man, maybe a decade older than me, eyes sharp and tired. He approached, quiet and professional. Sir, is there anything I can help you with? His voice was a lifeline in a storm, calm and kind where everyone else had been cold. I nodded, grateful for the small kindness. Just waiting for someone with real authority. Janet bristled. I'm the manager of commercial. I have more authority than anyone you need to speak to. I didn't answer. My phone buzzed, a reminder about an emergency board meeting. Name and company logo briefly flashing on the screen. Janet squinted at it, her brows furrowing. Before she could say anything else, Mrs. Patterson, yes, the same woman in Chanel, strode out from her viewing room. Excuse me, she said loudly. I've been a client here for 12 years, and I've never seen such disgraceful behavior from your staff." Tom rushed to do damage control. "Mrs. Patterson, this individual hasn't provided the proper documentation." She cut him off. "Did you ask me for documentation when I walked in? Did you take my photo for your security files?" No answer, just silence and shifting feet. I realized then, sometimes the people you least expect are the ones who speak up when it matters. Ashley, in a panic, dialed 911, making a show of reporting a refusal to leave. That's when I decided it was enough. I reached into my portfolio, every eye on me now, expecting drama. What I pulled out was simple: a letter, embossed with the company seal, and my name in bold at the bottom: Malcolm Ellis, Chief Executive Officer. Tom grabbed it first, his hands shaking as he read. Janet craned her neck, her face turning from suspicion to horror. Ashley went pale, mascara streaking down her cheeks. I set my access card and corporate credit card on the desk, my name and CEO title gleaming in gold. Nobody said a word. Even the social media intern had gone silent, her live stream audience exploding as the comments flew in. Finally, Tom found his voice. "Mr. Ellis, we didn't know." I held up a hand. "Would it have made a difference if you did? Or would you have treated me just like every other customer until you realized I had the power to end your career?" Janet stumbled backwards, her heels clicking like a retreat. Ashley burst into real tears, sobbing about her children, her job, her ignorance. I didn't shout, I didn't gloat. I just let the truth settle into the marble and gold and glass. "You judged me by my appearance, by the color of my skin, by the clothes I chose to wear. And now, because of that, you'll face the consequences you worked so hard to avoid." Tom and Janet were terminated on the spot. No severance, no references, nothing but a blank space where their names used to be. Ashley begged for mercy, but the answer was already written in her own actions. Even Maria, who thought she was invisible, found herself complicit. Screenshots of her messages making their way to every HR file and legal folder in the building. I thanked Marcus, the security guard, for his professionalism. I saw something in his eyes, a quiet pride, maybe, or just relief that someone finally saw the truth and acted on it. As I stepped into the executive elevator, the lobby behind me fell silent. No applause, no celebration, just the soft echo of consequences and the weight of 3 careers ending before the doors closed. Ashley's makeup smeared in streaks. Tom stared at the floor, hands trembling. Janet's designer suit looked suddenly cheap, her power gone. Their silence was louder than any apology. I left the building without looking back. I knew that, for once, the right people would have to live with the kind of loss and humiliation they so casually handed out to others. In the end, it's not about revenge. It's about knowing that dignity, once stolen, can be taken back. That's the only justice that ever really mattered. On this channel, JR, one moment of truth can change an entire system.